congratulations on the brand new film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch it, and I absolutely loved it. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it.
So, mate, we were just saying off air about how many great Australian films are coming out at the moment, especially off the back of Myth for this year. How do you feel now that your film is about to come out and be part of this huge bundle of great Aussie films that we've seen this year?
Yeah, it's exciting that it's going around the world now. It was screening in Melbourne a few months ago, and it was great watching the film with audiences and meeting them, because it's really all about the audience and their reaction to your film. And yeah, we've been on this film since we started in 2016, so to finally have it going out around the world and seeing how people react to it is really exciting.
So, David, tell us a little bit, where did this journey start for you? You mentioned that it started back in 2016. Where did the idea for the first film, when did that first come for you?
So in 2016, I approached a friend and writing colleague, Beth King, and said, let's do an indie horror film. So we'd had other films in development for several years, lots of different screenplays. And I just said to her, let's write something that we can make happen. And we spent a few months brainstorming different ideas, and we came up with about 5 or 6. And Surrogate really came out from, though it wasn't what the story was in the end, but it was about a ghost hitchhiking story that Beth had heard about as a child. And so it was really that we started brainstorming this idea around of how ghosts can come and go from your life in different ways that they can attach to people's lives.
Family plays a very big part of this film as well. What was that aspect like when you first started to sit down and work on that?
Yeah, the family component was really big, and in an early draft, the story was quite different. It was essentially about a broken family coming together, and then we thought that's not really the most horror angle to take, so then we decided to make it about a family getting torn apart, which is a lot more horrific as an idea. And so then we just started to look at the family dynamic and the nature of motherhood and children, and they're all really fun areas to play around in horror, because they also deal with vulnerability and loss and death and those kind of ideas.
So a lot of young filmmakers listen to this show, and they probably would have picked up on the fact before that you said that you had a lot of projects going, but you really wanted to do a kind of indie project that you could really get going. Did that change how you approached this project and how you went about writing it?
Yes, it certainly did. I mean, the sad reality is when you're writing feature films, most will not get made. That's just a statistical reality. And this was really about how you give yourself the best chance to make a film. And I mean, essentially anyone can go out and make a $5,000 feature film. But if you want to make a film at a really good standard and not be held back with all the difficulties that come in trying to raise finance, what I said to Beth is we want to keep it as a short screenplay. So that was the first thing. So for a feature film, we said we only want it to be about 90 minutes because that's a bit cheaper to make. And then we had it very focused on a small cast and minimal locations. So a lot of the film happens in one house. But what was interesting is the shoot went on, the film expanded out a little bit. So we ended up with quite a few locations and different cast. And it was really about how we maximise those elements. So, for example, as you'll know, there's a lot of scenes at a hospital. It's at different hospitals, but we shot it all at the same hospital.
Yeah, okay. So when you sat down to work on the script, does that mean that you start to think more about the kind of locations that are realistic? Like, do you start thinking about people's houses that you can use and things like that just to rein it in a little bit?
Yeah, to a degree. For sure, knowing what you can access and what's realistic. And one of the things I said to Beth, and this is just coming from directing experience, I said if there's a location in the film, we have to have at least 5 pages of scenes happen there. So that's essentially, on an indie film, that's one full day of shooting, because it's actually moving from location to location on the day is what chews up a lot of your time. So, so we found if there was a scene happening at one location that it didn't have to be back to back, but later in the story we would also use that location in another scene.
Yeah. Now, talking about cast, you've ended up with an amazing cast. Of course, Kirsty, everybody knows from the films that she's done in the past, including Wolf Creek. When did she come on board, and was she someone that you had in mind to play Natalie from the very start?
Yes, she came on board, I think, in sort of around 2018, late 2018, early 2019, and she hadn't come onto my radar initially. I'd been meeting with some actresses and doing some auditions, and it was actually a producer in Melbourne who also is an actor who had a supporting role in Surrogate. He said that he had Kirsty finishing up on Home and Away, and that she's looking to do a feature film. And so we contacted her then, and it was one of those interesting things. And I always remember her from Wolf Creek, which was nearly 20 years ago, and my initial thinking, she hadn't crossed my mind because I thought, she won't be the right age for the role. And then I really obviously connected the dots and went, well, she's 20 years older now. And yeah, so we sent her the screenplay and she loved it, and we had a meeting, and she sent me some screen tests of a couple of scenes, and thought, yeah, she's going to be great for the film.
You also got Jane Badler on board as well. Tell us a little bit about how that happened, because Jane is such a big name. She draws people to a movie. I remember going to the premiere of Cult Girls at Monsterfest a few years ago, and half the audience were there just to see Jane. How did that journey start out for you to get Jane involved with the film?
Yeah, that was a really interesting little story, because though Jane's American, she's been living in Melbourne for quite a long time, and Confer Cabo, who was our executive producer on the film, he's on one of the directors' boards of Victorian College of the Arts, and Jane Badler is also on that. And it was at a meeting one night, she was there, and he just sort of said, I'm producing this horror film, would you be interested in reading the script? And she said, yep. So we sent her the script, and she really liked it, and then I met with her for a coffee, and she sort of plays a sub-villain in the film, but when I met for a coffee, she's a really lovely lady, and it's always fun casting actors opposite to what their natural personality is.
So what was the nerves like before that meeting? That must have been a pretty nervous meeting for you to go to, knowing that you were going to be sitting down and talking to Jane.
Yeah, it was actually, I knew of the TV series V, but I'd never watched it. So, it was actually one I wasn't sort of nervous going into it. I said everything with myself, Confer and Jane met at a cafe in Melbourne, and it was just a really relaxed conversation talking about the script and the character. And as I said, she's very, very easygoing and lovely, and was very dedicated on this shoot to giving the best performance she could. So I really enjoyed working.
So tell us a little bit about the shoot. I'd really like to get your thoughts on what it was like stepping up from doing short films to a feature film. So what was the short like, and what was the thing that you probably the shoot like, and what was the one thing that you really noticed was different working on a feature film from a short film?
Ultimately on a feature the stakes feel a bit higher. In terms of the workload, it's longer. So you're sort of doing the same things, but with a short film, traditionally you're only shooting for a couple of days. I've done some shorts where you're only shooting for one day. Whereas a feature film, it's day after day. So the grind is longer. So it's really about keeping your concentration as you and the cast and crew get more and more tired across the shoot. Some nights you only might get 2 or 3 hours sleep, and so it's just having that energy to day by day, turning up and doing your job. And I think the crucial part with that is that you need to have a great day on the shoot every day, so you can't get carried away. If day 4 of the shoot is really good, I was really aware that the rest of the shoot has to be really good, because there's still a lot more of the film to be made. And the other tough bit is you don't have the film until you've finished it.
Yep.
So with a short film, you do your 1 to 4 days shooting and you've got it. Whereas a feature film, it's like even once you're 2 weeks into the shoot, you don't have the film yet.
So, were you shooting during COVID? Like, did that add a lot of pressure to you guys with the shoot as well?
Yeah, in and around aspects of the lockups in Melbourne, and what was tough is we just lost a lot of locations. Certain people on the crew, for various reasons, had to leave the project. So yeah, it cost us a lot of extra time and money. That's for sure.
So, mate, now the big question: where will people be able to watch Surrogate? You mentioned before that it's going worldwide. So, tell our listeners where they will be able to sit down and watch Surrogate from now on.
Yeah, so it is. It's coming out on a few different platforms across the next couple of weeks. So by next Friday, so would be Saturday Australian, which is the 17th of September, and it's the 16th of September in the US. By then, it will be available on Amazon and Tubi TV and Google Play. And then after that, over the next sort of 3 to 4 months, it's going to roll out over other platforms as well.
That must make you feel so proud as a filmmaker, knowing that your film now is going to be available right around the world. And that's something that people probably even 10 years ago didn't have the opportunity of doing, now that streaming platforms have really taken off. Does that make you feel kind of proud that your film is now going out to a worldwide audience?
Yeah, as I said, it's exciting and a bit nerve-wracking. Luckily the film's been mostly reviewing really well. I was saying to one of the producers the other day, I mean, if your film's getting horrible reviews, this process would be terrible. And yeah, the streaming is great. Like everything, you have advantages and disadvantages. So it's great that you can stream across the world and get your film out there, but the downside is there's so much competition. So it's how you get eyeballs onto your film is a whole other ball game. But yeah, it's been a great process making the film. The cast and crew are all excellent on it, and I'm just excited that it's out there so everyone can actually see their work finally.
Definitely. Well, mate, to finish off, what would you like to say to everybody out there who's about to sit down and watch this film on any of those streaming platforms right around the world?
That I hope you enjoy it, and also that we actually, when it screened at the cinemas, we had a few people come back a second time because there's a few complexities and twists in the story, and second time around they watched the film, they were like, oh, that actually all makes sense. So I would say to people, once you watch it once, sit down and run it again, and you'll be really surprised with what's happening early in the story that is more relevant than you think.